Today I'd like to continue our journey through the Gospel of Matthew. We're in chapter 5, and in chapter 5 we have that wonderful presentation of the Sermon on the Mount, which is a very interesting aspect of the teachings of Jesus. And he starts off with the Beatitudes, and the Beatitudes mention about blessed are the poor in spirit, and talks about the idea of somebody who is a beggar, or somebody who has nothing, who is really poor. And it's interesting that it raises the question about Jesus and wealth. And when you look at that question, Jesus does make some rather strong comments in the Gospel of Matthew. Later on, he's going to have a section in chapter 19 about the difficulties that wealth can create for someone to follow the Lord. And we have that very moving passage in Matthew where a young man comes up to Jesus and he wants to follow Jesus, and Jesus asks him, has he followed all the commandments? And he says, yes, I have. And he seems eager to follow the Lord. And then Jesus says, well, go sell what you have, give it to the poor, and come follow me. And the man is rich, and he finds it very difficult to make that type of commitment to Jesus where you just sell everything. And you have no money at all, and you just are completely dedicated to Jesus, completely relying on providence and what God will provide. And you can see that this could create a difficulty for us in terms of following Jesus. How seriously do we take this teaching about being poor in spirit? We have a little caveat there with the poor in spirit aspect. People can say, well, materially I'm very rich, but I'm not too attached to it, so I am poor in spirit. But what this is pointing towards, this teaching, is the difficulty that wealth can create for people. Because with wealth, there can come attachment. And we can say, well, I'm not attached to it, it's not that important. But we can, in all sorts of ways, hold on to a very comfortable life and become indifferent to the needs of other people. And to the extent that we kind of turn our back on them, yes, we'll give a little to charity and all of that, but we don't want to associate too closely with those who are down on their luck, or those that are homeless, those that live on the street, those that have no housing, those who are immigrants coming from another land. It can be a real problem, this problem of wealth and attachment to wealth. And so what Jesus is asking us to do here is to discern, am I truly charitable? Do I truly give a substantial part of my income to others? Or do I hold on too much? These are difficult questions that we struggle with. And I think Jesus intends to make them difficult questions. He's not going to give us a pass on this and come up with a simple formula. He's going to say, well, these are issues you have to struggle with. This is a challenge in following me. Following me is not going to be easy. Being unattached to wealth is not going to be easy. And we have Jesus saying in the Gospel of Matthew that the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. And that was very true of Jesus. He was an itinerant preacher, so that he often didn't have a place where he could sleep. You can picture many times, sleeping outside, being homeless. having no place, literally, to lay his head. Sure, there were friends, there were followers, there were times when he stayed with people. But I'm sure in those 3 years of public ministry, there were times when he didn't have anybody to stay with. So this is a challenging teaching. This is a struggle for us. It is not meant to be easy. It is part of being a follower of Jesus, and so Jesus lays it out there. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of God. Because when you are poor in spirit, there's a different kingdom that you're thinking about. Not thinking about the comforts of a kingdom of wealth, luxury, a good lifestyle. You're thinking about something else entirely. Am I truly following the Lord, doing what Jesus wants me to do? So blessed are the poor in spirit. Well, what do we mean by that word spirit? How do we interpret it? Again, we're meant to struggle with it, right? It refers really, we would think, to the devout poor. So a person who is poor, but who is faithful to God in their poverty. And there can be different reactions even to poverty. Be a person who is bitter about their poverty. Jesus is pointing towards something else. They're poor in spirit. They're devout. They're happy. Blessed are they. Another translation, happy are they. So it's a sense of being happy. Can also mean to extend the beatitude to all, whatever social rank, who recognize their complete dependence on God. So the poor in spirit are not dependent on themselves. They're not dependent on their own efforts. The poor in spirit are completely dependent upon God. It is God who leads them. They follow God. They don't follow their money or their wealth, or they don't try to accumulate excessively. They're thinking about, am I truly following God with this wealth that I have? Or has the wealth become a distraction? Do I think too much about it? Do I worry too much about it? Do I want to accumulate more wealth? Am I greedy? All of these are issues that this first beatitude, blessed are the poor in spirit. This first beatitude gives us pause, and we struggle with this concept of wealth. And Jesus does not make it easy.